let me tell you a story. It was Friday night in late October. The air was crisp enough that I could see my breath. Dead leaves littered the ground and crunched underfoot as I strode up the walkway to Paul Chambers' house. It was early in my freshman year of high school. Paul sat next to me in homeroom because our last names were close to each other alphabetically. We'd gotten to know each other bullshitting every morning for the past 2 months, waiting for the first period bell to ring. I knocked on the door of what today would be called the quintessential mid-century modern split level. This mostly glass and natural wood house was in a residential neighborhood, but it was set back into the trees far enough that it felt like it was secluded in the woods. I'm not gonna lie, I was stoked. This was my first time sleeping over anyone's house who wasn't a relative. Paul's dad, also named Paul, answered the door and invited me in. He was a tall, physically imposing guy, but so friendly that I liked him almost immediately. After a few minutes of small talk, he pointed me downstairs where Paul was waiting. Paul and I hung out for a bit, talking about kids at school and cracking each other up doing impressions of some of our teachers, especially Mr. Martin, our Latin teacher, who had a very thick French-Canadian accent. As we were laughing, I heard a chorus on the radio. "We don't need no education. We don't need no thought control." It was then that Paul asked me if I wanted to play D&D. "Huh, what's that?" I questioned. "Dungeons and Dragons," he said. Okay, I replied, still unsure. As Roger Waters sang, "All in all, you're just another brick in the wall," Paul pulled a box off the shelf, opened it and took out some books with some cartoonish monsters on the covers, several small pewter figurines, and a set of semi-transparent dice like I'd never seen before. "I'll be the DM," he said. "You need to roll up a character. Do you want to be a cleric, a fighter, a magic user, or a thief?" I chose magic user, and at that moment I was transported into a world that would become a seminal part of my teen years, and beyond. Talk about being in a state of flow. The next 5 hours passed in a blink of an eye. From the moment that I met Kay and Telva and the other NPCs at the inn, to the climactic encounter with the boss in the slave pits of the Undercity, I was completely hooked. When Paul Sr. finally came down and insisted that we get some sleep, I could hardly believe it was after 2:30 a.m. When we finally woke up, Paul's mother, Marilyn, made us French toast, and over breakfast, all we could do was recount the adventures of the previous night's campaign, as if they really happened. Finding the secret passage in the ruined temple, battling the humanoid ant creatures, and after narrowly escaping being consumed by a green slime, finding a flamethrower in its dead gelatinous form. It was epic. After that night, Paul and I were inseparable. We recruited others into our weekly D&D meetups, where I took over the role of DM and spent untold hours creating my own campaigns. I became a fixture at the Fabulous Fiction bookstore, the only place in central Massachusetts at the time that carried role-playing games. We convinced our computer science teacher to start an official school activity that we called the Creative Anachronism Club. Because, believe it or not, in the early 80s, playing Dungeons and Dragons was not widely regarded as cool. And most memorably, Paul and I and Kurt, another good friend, took a road trip our junior year to Gen Con in Kenosha, Wisconsin, where I met the Gary Gygax. But that's a tale for another time. So that's my story. What's yours? I bet you have at least one about how a game has helped you to discover things about yourself, forge deep relationships, or just escape from reality for a few hours. Play is so basic to human nature that it's the primary way we learn to navigate the world almost from the moment we're born. And it's just as important to nurture that sense of playfulness into adulthood. My firm belief in the value of games is the creative force behind this project. My team and I view the gaming table as essential to the modern tabletop gaming lifestyle. So we decided to use our engineering skills to hack it and level up everyone's gaming experience. And I ask you to join us on this adventure. Whether you back the campaign, tell your friends about it, contribute ideas, or just cheer us on, I welcome you to be a part of a shared experience that I know will contribute to gaming culture and that we can all be proud of. Thank you.